to today's webinar, New to AVETMISS Reporting. My name is Catherine McGregor and I'm a Senior Research Officer at NCVER. I work on the AVETMISS standard and I'm delighted to have the opportunity to present to you today. This presentation is in 3 main sections and it will take approximately 30 minutes. First, I'll give you an overview of AVETMISS. This is covering why you have to report. I'll then spend the majority of the presentation going through the AVETMISS reporting process. Things like how do you check if your AVETMISS data or your data are AVETMISS compliant, and when, where and how do you report your AVETMISS data. And then lastly, what happens to the data once it's reported to NCVER? This is how you can access our statistics and publications and make the most of the data available, particularly in supporting your business. Now, this presentation is primarily aimed at people who are new to AVETMISS reporting, who haven't yet had that delight. So why do you have to report this year, and under what authority are the data collected? Well, for RTOs who are regulated by ASQA, reporting is mandated under the data provision requirements. Whereas if you're registered in Victoria or Western Australia, the reporting requirements are part of the AQTF standards. It doesn't matter where you're regulated and registered, the requirements for providing data are the same. The data provision requirements are the same across all 3 regulators. So what's changed this year? Why do you have to report? Well, last year, mandatory reporting was agreed by state, territory and Commonwealth governments, and this came into effect in January this year. The introduction of mandatory reporting is referred to as total VET activity, and you can get more information about total VET activity under the Federal Department of Industry's website from the link just displayed here. So what's the connection between AVETMISS and NCVER? Well, NCVER is the custodian of the national VET collections and surveys. We collect AVETMISS data under the authority of those regulatory bodies. In previous years, we collected and reported on government-funded activity submitted by states and territory training authorities. But 2014 marks the first year that RTOs are required to collect and subsequently report AVETMISS data for all their nationally recognised training. As a result, we'll be able to get a more accurate picture of what the Australian VET sector looks like. So first I'll give you a bit of an overview of what total VET activity is. It covers nationally recognised training, so this includes training package qualifications, national courses and the associated units for both of these. And that's regardless of funding source. This means that regardless of whether you're paid by the government to deliver training or your revenue source is some other means, you have to report this information. It covers any activity from January 2014 onwards, and that includes students who commenced prior to 2014 and are continuing this year. In exceptional circumstances, some RTOs do not have to submit all or some of their AVETMISS data. You need to contact your regulator to check eligibility. There are full exemptions applying to those RTOs for whom there would be national security implications, and also RTOs who are delivering vital services such as emergency or fire rescue courses. There are partial exemptions granted for students who are undertaking short standalone units, modules or programs that are fewer than 8 nominal hours in duration. Or if you're an enterprise RTO delivering training to existing workers and volunteers. And here there are some exemptions on collecting student demographic information. Some RTOs have applied to their regulator to have a grace period for 2014. This means that those RTOs will start collecting their data from 2015 and not from 2014. and you can see more information on the Department of Industry website. So what is AVETMISS? Well, you can see here what it is spelled out, what the acronym is in full. And so you'll understand why we now refer to it as AVETMISS rather than its full name. It's a national data standard, and it provides a consistent framework against which we can organise the collection of vet data activity across Australia. So without a statistical standard, it would be really difficult to make sense of the data collected at the national level. You think about the range of places that vet training occurs. We want to be confident that our data is consistent regardless of where that activity occurs. The National Vet Provider Standard consists of 2 documents. The data collection specifications are shown here, and there's also the data element definitions. You can access both of these documents from the AVETMISS support page on our portal at the web address shown on this slide. And this is what the front page of the NCVER portal looks like. On the bottom left, you can find the AVETMISS support screen, or the support section. You'll probably need to scroll down to see this depending on your screen or browser. But this is where you can find most of the information that I will show you today. So don't worry if you forget some of the information I'll show you. The AVETMISS support section on the NCVER portal is a good place to start. This is an overview of the process that I'm going to cover in the next section. Don't worry if you don't understand all the terms at this stage. It's pretty much a sequential process. You collect student data using the enrolment form and feed that together with your organisation and training program details into a student management system of some kind. If the system is AVETMISS compliant, it will export data in the NAP file format. NAP files are simply a series of text files that contain the required data in a specified format. And these NAP files need to be validated and checked for anomalies before they can be submitted to the vet provider collection. So, the first step in the process is collecting the AVETMISS data. In order to produce an accurate picture of what's going on in the vet sector, we need to collect information on the people who are undertaking the training. So this is the students. We need to know who they are, and this includes information on their sex, date of birth, country of origin, and so on. To assist with the collection of this information, we've produced a set of standard enrolment questions, and this has all the AVETMISS questions you need to ask students when they enrol. You can find this in the collection specification document that I mentioned previously. And you can copy the questions from here and incorporate information into your own enrolment form. By using the questions from our standard enrolment form, you will ensure that your RTO is capturing all the required information. But sometimes students won't provide the information that you need to ask them. And so for that reason, we've produced a fact sheet on AVETMISS compliance, and that includes advice on what to do when students don't respond to the questions. So you're required to ask students those questions, but they have a right not to provide that information. So if you have that situation arise, have a look at our fact sheet on AVETMISS compliance to see how to manage that. Next, you need to know where they are studying. This is information about you, your RTO, such as training delivery location and other information relating to your service. And lastly, we're interested in knowing what they study. This is information about the subjects and programs that your students are undertaking. The exact information that your RTO is required to report is outlined in the AVETMISS standard. And as I mentioned previously, the standard is presented in 2 documents, the collection specifications and the data element definitions. The first of these, the collection specifications, describe the content and structure of the data that you need to put into your AVETMISS submission. These are shown in the form of NAP files, which you saw earlier on that process flow. There are different NAP files for to the different types of data, such as information about the student, who they are, what and where they study. This information is captured in a separate NAT file for each of those types of data. This document is also where you can find the standard enrolment questions that you can copy into your enrolment form. But for more information on the individual fields that make up the files, you need to refer to the data element document. This information outlines all the fields and their definitions and provides classification schemes where required. Taken together, these documents are important for explaining what is collected and the rules that govern their collection. Now, you will be relieved to know that as an RTO, you do not have to become an expert on the technical contents of these two documents, but it is fascinating reading, so you might want to do that anyway. But that information is usually taken care of by a student management system of some kind. But should you need to refer to either of these documents, you can find them for download on our portal from the AVETMISS support item on the home page. Now, once you have collected your information, you need to store it and maintain it as the students progress through their training. And there are a couple of options for doing this. One option is to purchase an AVETMISS compliant student management system. At NCVER, we've developed the AVETMISS compliant software register, which lists products that are deemed as AVETMISS compliant. Now, you need to note that it's the software vendors themselves who are identified as AVETMISS compliant. So when you're selecting a system, we recommend ensuring that the software matches your needs and ask software vendors what their support policies are. You can access the register from our portal at the AVETMISS support section of the website. Another option is aimed at RTOs with fewer than 100 students per year, and that's our free data entry tool. To access our data entry tool, simply visit the portal homepage and click on the icon that looks like this. This is a manual data entry tool designed to produce a AVETMISS compliant NAT file. It's been designed for small RTOs who deliver fee-for-service training and now have to submit AVETMISS data. So you might have been managing your student information in some other form, perhaps through Excel spreadsheets or something, but you now need to have the capacity of reporting AVETMISS data in NAT file format, and Excel won't do that for you. So this product's been developed for you. You need to manually enter all the information, which is why we recommend it's best for fewer than 100 students, because it is a bit repetitive. You can't import information. It's all, as the name suggests, data entry. It's not a student management system, so it doesn't do things like managing teaching resources and so on. And it's also not been designed for RTOs who are delivering government-funded training and who need to submit their training information to their state training authorities. And that's because often those government authorities have additional reporting requirements that are outside the national standard. But if you're a small fee-for-service RTO and you're not sure whether you need a student management system, then perhaps give the data entry tool a try first. It's free and easy to access online from the NCVER portal. If neither of these options suit you, then you can have an AVETMISS compliant management system developed in-house. You just need to make sure that the system can export the data in NAT file format as specified in the VET provider collection specification. So once you have your system set up, you then use it to extract your AVETMISS data into the NAT file. That should just be a matter of clicking a button in your system to create the extract. And if you're using a commercial AVETMISS compliant student management system and you're unsure how to do this, then check the information provided by the vendor and contact them for support. On the screen here we've got an image of what the NAT file output would look like on your computer. Once you've extracted your AVETMISS data into NAT files, save them to your desktop or a drive on your computer, ready for validation. So just to recap, we've talked about collecting the data, inputting the data into a student management system, and then extracting your NAT files. So now we are up to the validation section where you take your NAT files through to check whether the data integrity is adequate. Most of you will be using NCVER's AVETMISS Validation Software, also known as AVS, to validate your data. You can validate as often as you like during the year to check that your data are free of errors. We now have an online tutorial available that covers the entire validation process from signing in to submitting your files, and you'll find the video and detailed user guide in the AVETMISS support section, just down here. You can also access AVS and its resources from our homepage as indicated here. The next few slides will provide you a quick overview of how to use AVS. Don't worry if there's too much detail for you to take in when I step through the validation process. There are plenty of support resources available. So, to start, this is the AVS homepage. In order to access AVS, you need to first register, and then once you've registered, you are able to sign in. Once you've signed in, you'll see a screen like this. There's a top menu ribbon here. There's also a message window, collection window, and over on the right there's a news section. In order to validate your NAT files, the ones you exported from your student management system, you need to start a new collection. So you click the collections menu and you'll see new collection. Once you've done that, you're taken to this screen. And this is where you set your collection details, such as the year and the collection period. For RTOs submitting to the annual collection in February 2015, please make sure that you select the January to December collection period and 2014 for the year. Once you've selected your collection details, you can then add your files down here. Once you've selected that, you're taken to a screen where you're looking for the NAT files that you saved from your management system. They might be in a zip folder like this, or they could be individual NAT files. Doesn't matter, whatever your system has exported, you need to select those and then commence the validation process. You do that by first uploading your files, which you can see down at the bottom left here. And once the files have uploaded, you can then validate, which is the really exciting bit. So you sit back and wait until you get a status in your status column to see how you've gone. So if they have a status of validated, it means that the files have been successfully validated and they're free of errors. If you have a status of error, like we have here, it means that your data contains errors, which are problems that must be rectified before you can submit. Sometimes you might also see that you have warnings, as we do here. These indicate issues that need investigation and correction, and correct if possible, but you're not required to fix them before data submission. To fix errors and warnings, you'll need to go back to your source, to your student management system, fix up the offending areas, and then go through that process again of add, upload, validate, using your amended files. To know what the problems are, you can see by clicking these hyperlinks, and this will give you detailed information about the problems that have arisen to cause the error, or you can use the Export Details button to export all your errors and warnings at once. For more details about accessing information on your errors and warnings, please consult the AVS user guide. And as always, if you require further assistance, you can contact the AVETMISS support team. Once your files have passed error-free, then you can select the Finalise Submission button. This will bring you to the Finalise Submission screen where you'll be able to export or submit your data. Files can be exported from here at any time, but the Submit button down in the bottom left here will not be active until the collection window opens. The collection window for the annual collection for all 2014 vet data will open in January 2015, and submissions are due by the end of February 2015. When data is submitted to NCVER, all client names are encrypted and street address information is stripped out. Now that was a really quick run through, so don't worry if you got a bit lost in there. More detail is available in the AVETMISS AVS video tutorial and the AVS user guide, and that steps you through the whole process. Now that you've extracted and validated your data, what next? Well, next you need to submit your data to either your state training authority and or to NCVER. Where you need to submit your data depends on how your training is funded and in which state or territory you deliver training. So first, let's shine some light on funding sources. Funds can come from a state or territory government, and in the remainder of this presentation, I'll call that government-funded training. An example of government-funded training would be Skills for All in South Australia. Alternatively, training is paid for by the students themselves or perhaps some other revenue source. And that's usually non-government and it's not managed by the state or territory. We'll call that other funded data or fee for service. Now let's have a look at how your funding arrangements and training delivery location determine your data submission destination. Firstly, if your RTO offers government-funded training only, then you need to submit your training activities to your relevant state training authority. Or, if your RTO only offers other funded training, perhaps fee for service, you may be able to submit your data to your state training authority. A number of those state training authorities will accept the data, fee for service data. If not, you can submit your fee for service training activity directly to NCVER. So, simple and straightforward if you only have one of the two funding sources. But what happens if you have a mix of those two funding types? Well, the government-funded stays the same. If it's managed by states and territories, you still have to send that information to your state training authority. All other activity, this now depends on the state or territory you're delivering in. You don't need to try and memorise this table because we've got this information in our fact sheet, where, when and how do I report my AVETMISS data. And this is available from the fact sheet section of the AVETMISS support page. Here's a second column, shows the mixed funding and which states and territories you can submit both your government-funded and other funded activity to. Note that NCVER cannot accept state-managed data, and our validation software will prevent submission of these data. Okay, so this is all well and good, but how do you prepare your data when you're dealing with two funding sources? You've got two options. Firstly, if your state accepts other funded data in addition to government funded, then you can send all your information as a combined submission to your state training authority. Alternatively, if your state does not accept other funded data in addition to the state funded data, you'll need to prepare two submissions. Your first submission has the government funded information and you send that to your respective state or territory training authority. Your other funded data, such as fee for service, can be submitted directly to NCVER. If you deliver fee for service training across Australia, you might find it easier to submit all of that activity in a single submission to NCVER. Now, don't despair if this doesn't sink in yet. We're aware this is a really complex undertaking, especially if you're delivering across several states and territories with a mix of different funding types. But this information is summarised in the fact sheet, which is available from the AVETMISS support section on our portal. So given the reporting requirements and the validation details, there's a lot of information to take in, but we have a range of support options available if you get stuck when you're trying to complete your AVETMISS reporting. There is always the AVETMISS support team, and you can call or email those, our friendly staff at the AVETMISS support desk. We also have a range of support materials available, and this is where you can find information like the fact sheets and the standard publications. You can also find the STA or State Training Authority contact information here as well. And lastly, to access validation-related support materials such as the user guide and the video tutorial, go to the home page of our portal and click the AVETMISS Validation Software icon. So, just to recap, you collect data from your students and together with their training, put information into your AVETMISS compliant student management system. You extract that information into NAT file format and then pass the NAT files through some form of validation. You validate and correct your data at the source, which is back here in your student management system, until the data are error-free. I just need to mention that some state training authorities have their own validation systems, and you'll need to use that if you're submitting directly to a state training authority. But most of you are likely to be using AVS. So once your data are error-free, you then submit your data to the National Vet Provider Collection, either through your state training authority or directly to NCVER. So what happens next? Well, now your part is done, thankfully, and it's time for our collections team here at NCVER to process the data and prepare the associated publications and data products. We have a range of publications and data products freely available on our website. The publication associated with the Vet Provider Collection is currently called Students and Courses. At the moment, we only have information related to government-funded activity, but of course that will change after we collect the data from you under Total Vet Activity. In addition to summary publications and data tables, we also produce other data products based on our collections. To give you a sense of some of the materials available, I'm going to show you Vet Students by Industry, which is one such resource. This is where you can look for students in specific industry areas, and you can search across our three main data collections and our surveys. So you can look at information either by training package qualifications, industry skills councils, occupation and field of education, and you get to select those parameters in the screen here. Apologies, this slide is cut off just under industry skills councils, but if you scroll down, you also see occupation and field of education. In the example, I've selected occupation, and in particular electricians. I'm interested in vet students enrolled by selected characteristics, Table 1. So when you click the Go button, the following table appears. This is an extract from a 5-year data series that goes right up to 2013. But to make it easier to read, I've just cut it off at 2011, so only showing the first 3 years. So these data may assist in answering the following questions. How easy do you think it's going to be to get an electrician in your state and territory when they finish their training? Does it look like we're training enough to meet demand? And if you specialise in a particular industry area and would like to know the training market, well then Vet Students by Industry is where you can examine data by these kind of characteristics. It's a really rich resource. Of course, at the moment, data in our existing collections are only the government-funded training activity, but with Total Vet Activity we'll have a better picture of training across Australia. And that's information that you can use to inform your business decisions and identify untapped markets. Data supplied to the Vet Provider Collection are also used on the MySkills website, and that's managed by the Australian Government. And this is a screenshot from the MySkills website, which shows RTO summary statistics, some student characteristics, and qualification levels. So listed here are some big picture benefits of Total Vet Activity, helping us to answer questions such as, does Australia have the skills required to develop our economy? Are we investing enough in training to meet our requirements? And the list goes on. And that's all lovely. Well, what does that mean for you and for your business? Well, with the introduction of total vet activity, we can offer a holistic picture of what's going on in the Australia vet sector. And you can take advantage of the data that you are reporting. So if you visit our portal, you can access a number of our reports and data tables free of charge. You can also purchase personalised data requests that you can use to promote and develop your RTO in today's competitive market. By accessing data on what's going on in the vet sector in your area, you can benchmark your RTO and use the AVETMISS statistics in marketing campaigns. In saying this, it's important to remember that the information we report is aggregated so that individual students cannot be identified. Nonetheless, you can still find lots of information on occupation and industry, as well as local or national trends. So where to from here? Well, visit our AVETMISS support page for any information you're after. This is a really good starting point, and we've got a wealth of information available here. You might want to sign up for the Data Support Bulletin. This is a fairly regular newsletter that we send out every couple of months, and it gives you updates on our data products like AVS and the data entry tool. If you're planning on submitting your data to your state training authority, then you need to contact them. And familiarise yourself with AVS. You can use AVS at any time during the year, and I'd really recommend that you validate your data often so you've got a chance of fixing up any errors that might have arisen much closer in time, so you're not so pressured at the end when you need to submit your data. Get ready for submitting your 2014 data in early 2015. Contact your state training authority if you're going to submit through them, or if you're going to submit directly to NCVER, the submission deadline is Friday, 27th of February. So that brings us to the end of this webinar, and I'd just like to thank the people who've helped to create this. Thank you to Retta, who created the slides, and Geeta and Airlie for their refinements to the presentation. And thank you to Katrina and June for keeping the technology in check. Remember, you can stay connected with NCVER via our social media connections on Twitter and LinkedIn. And thank you very much for your attention today, and good luck with your AVETMISS reporting. Thank you.